The PRC family has been wildly successful in the last 6 years, and I don't think Hornady is going to stop making PRC cartridges anytime soon. So in today's video, I'm going to look at the potential candidates for the next caliber of PRC, and we're going to talk about which one is probably most likely next that Hornady is going to make, which one I think is the best one. This should be a fun video. These are the three calibers that I think are most likely what Hornady will release in the coming years. Now, let's start with on the left, the one that I think is the absolute most likely to be released. We've got 25 caliber. Bullets are starting to come out with high BCs in the 25 caliber. There just isn't a lot of competition in the 25 caliber. It's basically 25-06 and 257 Weatherby. And so I would think that Hornady would release a 25 PRC that's based off the 6.5 that's going to be shooting these 135 grain bullets at pretty darn good velocities. Now the next one, if Hornady really just wanted to kill off the 6.8 Western, they would make a 270 PRC, which would be, the parent case would be the 7 PRC neck down to 277. This one I think is the least likely one to happen because the differences between a 270 PRC and a 7 PRC, I just don't know if there is much of a difference at all. And so it just seems redundant. So I highly doubt Hornady would do that, but it would certainly kill off the 6.8 Western for good. Then we go to 338. I think it's the second most likely to happen. You know, you're going to take a 300 PRC case and neck it up to 338. Now the issues I see with this one is all of the high BC bullets in 338, you're going to have to go up to like 275 and higher. And I don't think the 300 PRC case is big enough to really give you a good velocities with 275 grain up to 300 grain. As it sits, the 300 PRC is about 100 feet per second slower than a 300 Weatherby. And then when you look at the 340 Weatherby, it can shoot a 300 grain, maybe 2750, and if you really stomp on it, maybe 2800. So if you think of a 338 PRC going about 100 feet per second slower than a 340 Weatherby, well, yeah, I just don't see it being a great idea. Now, here is what a 340 Weatherby looks like right next to a 300 PRC. So as you can see, it definitely is going to be faster than a 338 PRC. To get an idea of what a 25 PRC performance would look like, let's look at the potential parent case for a 25 PRC, the 6.5 PRC with a 130 grain bullet. Now, bear in mind, this is with a 26-inch barrel. Nosler says you can get 3,300 feet per second. When I'm thinking of a 25 PRC, maybe in a 24-inch barrel, and you got to realize you're going to lose a little velocity when you go down in caliber size, I think you're going to be maxing out with a 135 grain bullet around 3,200 feet per second, which is crazy good performance, which I will show you in a little bit. Now, 25 caliber bullet selection, at least in the high BC range, is pretty slim. You basically have a couple bullets from Hornady and a couple bullets from Berger, with Berger having the highest BC bullet, which is this guy, the 135 grain hybrid target, and a G1BC of 0.650, which is very good. And when you put it at 3,200 feet per second, this thing is pretty darn flat and not extremely overbore either. So here's the potential ballistics. I think this is on the very top end. Let's use that 135 grain hybrid target with a BC of 0.650, muzzle velocity of 3,200 feet per second. You're looking at energy of 3,070, which is pretty darn good. Out to 400 yards. This would be a darn good deer cartridge. Personally, I think 25 caliber is a little small for elk, but it is what it is. About 19.5 inches of drop. This thing is flat. Then we take this out to 1,000 yards. The bullet's still going 1,867 feet per second. You get 1,045 foot-pounds of energy. But check out that drop. Only 215 inches of drop. This thing is flatter than a 6.5 PRC. It's flatter than a 300 Win Mag. It's flatter than a 7 Mag. Pretty sweet. Let's see how a hypothetical 25 PRC would compete with Hornady's own cartridges they already have. We'll start with the 6mm Creedmoor. We're going to use factory ammo. We're going to use a 108 grain ELDM with a muzzle velocity 2960 feet per second, energy 2,101 foot-pounds. Out to 500 yards, bullets going 2144 feet per second, your energy 1,103 foot-pounds. The next number is MOA in drop at 500 yards and windage MOA adjustment, so 3.00. Let's go to 1,000. We've got the bullet going 1485 feet per second and 529 foot-pounds of energy. Drop 27.5 MOA and then 7.16 wind adjustment in MOA. Now let's look at the 6.5 PRC with Hornady factory ammo, 147 grain ELDM. We're looking at a muzzle velocity of 2,900 feet per second, energy 2,746 foot-pounds of energy. So this is a sizable advantage over 6mm Creedmoor. It should be. This one's a Magnum. This is at 500 yards, 2,268 feet per second, energy 1,679 foot-pounds. 8.48 MOA drop, and then 2.29. So a small advantage for the 6.5 PRC over the 6mm Creedmoor. At 1,000, we're looking at a bullet going 1,723 feet per second, 969 foot-pounds of energy, 24.9 MOA in drop, and 5.22. So the advantages keep getting better for the 6.5 PRC over the 6mm Creedmoor. Let's look at the 25 PRC hypothetical data. 135 grain Berger hybrid target. Muzzle velocity, I'm completely guessing. I would assume you can get 3,050 feet per second with factory ammo. Your energy is actually a little bit more than a 6.5 PRC. 2,789 versus 2,746. At 500 yards, the bullet's going 2353 feet per second, so almost 100 feet per second faster than 6.5 PRC. Your energy is a little bit lower than the 6.5 PRC at 500 yards, but they are extremely close. This one's 1661. 7.66 MOA adjustment, so it is the flattest versus the other two by about 1 MOA. And basically identical in wind adjustment with the 6.5 PRC. Out to 1,000, bullets go on 1759, so a little bit quicker than the 6.5 PRC, but your energy is a little bit lower because it's shooting a lighter bullet. So this is 928 foot-pounds versus 969. It is, again, the flattest out to 1,000 yards, 22.9, so it has a 2 MOA advantage over the 6.5 PRC, and a 5 MOA advantage over 6mm Creedmoor. And your windage is a little bit worse than the 6.5 PRC. After running those numbers, I'm going to be honest with you, the 25 PRC does not have an advantage over the 6.5 PRC in a hunting application. You are going to get more energy, you're going to get a wider diameter bullet and a heavier bullet hitting game. So yeah, the 6.5 PRC beats 25 PRC for hunting purposes. However, if you are wanting to get into some target shooting and you want a little bit less recoil with better ballistics out to 1,000 yards, I think the 25 Creedmoor has the 6.5 PRC beat. Guys, I want to hear from you. What should Hornady's next cartridge be? Do you think the 25 PRC is a good cartridge? Or do you have another suggestion? Let me know in the comments.